Hi, I am Linda Deir, and this guy right here.
Is the man behind the curtain, Ray Holly,
I couldn't do it without him, you guys.
Linda's gatekeeper.
And we are so happy that you signed up for this webinar. It's going to be powerful. All right. This webinar has been 67 years in the making. In addition to the publication of my books, since 2014, in Linda's weekly guided insights, my spirit guides have been preparing you for the changes that are happening now. That my true life story guided, prophesized. The change that you feared is here. I'm going to read from chapter 1, a short excerpt from chapter 1 of Guided, about what Guided prophesized from the beginning of my life. While I became aware of my guides at a very young age, I did not always know who they were, just like you. I was introduced to them in a remarkable life destiny dream that set the stage for my entire life. It showed me who I am, why I'm here, and that I'm guided, just like you. It showed me that repetitive dream played out night after night and year after year, and is the first memory I have. The dream started around the age of 2 and continued until my mid-30s. In all those years, this dream never changed. It showed me my purpose, people's intentions, and their reactions to a world to come. This was also my first contact when I met my old friends, my spirit guides. I call it the merry-go-round dream. In the dream, I'm about 7 years old, and I'm on a merry-go-round that's mounted to the top of the inside of a gold domed ceiling, painted in Renaissance designs like a cathedral. It was a centuries-old, rich architectural masterpiece, and I'm about 75 to 100 feet above the floor, riding this merry-go-round, holding on single-handedly while leaning back in total joy as this merry-go-round speeds up, going faster and faster until I feel like I'm flying. Life just doesn't get better than this. I'm having so much fun as everyone I know in the whole wide world is riding on this merry-go-round with me. As it speeds up, the other people start to get scared. Then, one by one, they begin giving up and letting go. I see them fly off the merry-go-round, hitting the side walls of the domed ceiling, blood splattering everywhere. It is gruesome as they scream to their deaths in utter terror. I'm in total shock as I watch each one of these people become fearful, let go, and die. I don't understand why they are afraid and why they can't see how great this ride is, these changes. To me, it's the most exciting feeling and a freedom that surpasses anything. This feeling gets interrupted when I see everyone fearful, letting go and dying. I'm always the only one left on this merry-go-round. The most horrifying part of this dream is that these people died with so much fear. I was not able to convince the people on this ride with me that this was a good thing. They couldn't see that this could be the best times of their life as we ride through this together. I was haunted with the challenge of finding a way to reach them. I became aware that that was my job. The message of that dream was my spirit guide angels showing me how people's fear turned into pain, and that to get out of pain, they must first get out of fear. It was fear that set it all into motion. The fear stopped the people in the dream from experiencing new things and believing in themselves. My angels showed me in the dream what would become the biggest tragedy of our times. This tragedy is that most people will die having lived fear-based lives. I was just a toddler when I first experienced all of this. I came into this life happy and optimistic, knowing I could do anything once I got here. But something was terribly wrong once I was actually here. The message in this dream was to help the ones who can be reached, so they could live the life they intended before they got here, without fear. This was my part in it. The change you feared is here, but not to be feared. Here's what my spirit guides want you to know right now. The changes that will affect your lifestyle are currently underway. In this webinar, my spirit guides will expose the truth about what is really happening and how to make the needed changes. These changes will become your best defense against an outside world that only causes increased confusion. My spirit guides are going to speak to you about the truth of what's really happening right now. And here they go.
Hello to all. We come to you in truth and love. To us, truth and love are the same thing. It is the basis for truthful connections and communication between souls. The forced change you are now experiencing is not going to go away soon. You must take an introspective look and ask yourself, how have you reacted to the current forced change? What have you noticed about yourself that will be the most disturbing or uncomfortable thing regarding this change? What have you noticed about something you are surprisingly pleasant about? What good things are happening right now in your life that, if this change weren't happening, you would miss? People adapt differently to forced change. Regular change can be a deliberate thing and or a gradual process. For example, a company could improve their products or services and are always looking to change for the better. Personally, you could change your diet and see the gradual change and how it makes you feel different and look different. Learning a new skill involves gradual change, like learning to play the piano or learning a new language. It's something that the ongoing change supports. Forced change can be sudden or even harsh. For example, a quarantine, any type of restriction or deprivation, the taking away of privileges. These all cause fear, resistance, and anxiety about the future. Anxiety exists as fear of the future, and this anxiety makes you doubt yourself and your part in this future. Massive, needed change left up to people's own discretion never gets done. Fear and panic and procrastination all get in the way. People see it as a monumental task, and the "I'm fine" syndrome takes over. People are far from fine. They tell you how they would want to be when you ask them, "How are you?" Not how they really are. People who resist important, needed changes always suffer long term. The forced change establishes a new normal that you cannot stop. There is no going back to the way it was. In most cases, going back to the way it was is your worst option. When you encounter forced change that you resist, you start glorifying the old normal, making it into something it never was. We call this the good old days system syndrome.
Right.
What you thought was working just fine wasn't working at all. However, there is a silver lining in what's happening with forced change right now. Huge problems that have lingered for years, sometimes decades, will magically solve themselves. Think about what's going on with students having to stay home and learn online. The school and education system has been broken for decades and getting worse. Now, students not having to attend school physically solves many problems. They can concentrate more on their studies without distractions online. The bully problem, so prevalent in schools, is all of a sudden gone. Same with school shootings. There's nobody there. Our schools are so underfunded that teachers must buy their students supplies. That will go away. What about the expensive overhead of huge buildings that require heat, air conditioning, maintenance, and much more upkeep? They will be sitting there empty. What we see these buildings could be used for is shelter for the homeless. There's many classrooms that could be converted into sleeping areas. There's a gymnasium to exercise in. There are many showers and bathroom facilities. And best of all, there's a cafeteria. These schools that are abandoned due to online learning could become the saviors of the homeless problem in the world. Another thing is all the time and money spent transporting students back and forth to school. Parents will no longer have to drive them there and pick them up. The old dilapidated school buses that needed maintenance all the time and were driven by people who were not put through the proper screening evaluations will not be in touch with your kids anymore. Just this safety point alone is so worthwhile. The homeless situation could also be addressed by the massive abandoned retail outlets that have struggled to survive for a decade or more, since everyone seems to enjoy shopping online. These spaces could also be put to use to help the homeless, possibly turning them into job training situations so they could become self-sufficient. The schools being occupied by homeless people also need a staff to help run them. People who can cook, clean, fix things will all now have a job. Another situation with people all working from home, they will not want to stop doing this. They enjoy the freedom and comfort and do not miss the distractions of co-workers who are bitter toward them, bosses who scowl at them when they walk by, and the internal company politics. In bigger companies, they all have large parking garages. These parking garages could easily be converted into a more useful identity. There are so many good things that will be the result of the present forced change that you will be amazed and ask yourself, why didn't someone think of this long ago? We want you to take a good look at change, all kinds of change, and be able to weather the change with a peaceful and content knowing that the change is necessary and is bringing an evolution to your world. You know, it's interesting when they mentioned that people who, how they say it, they resist the change, they're going to suffer long term. It's interesting because I found a chart. You know how I am about research. I found a chart.
This is really interesting. Yeah.
This goes back to 2001.
Make sure they can see it in the window. Good.
There they go. Okay. This goes back to 2001. And
point out 2001.
way over here, and it goes up to 2019 to 2020.
Yeah.
And this is a plot on the chart of the viruses, starting with SARS, avian bird flu, swine flu, MERS, Ebola, Zika, and now the Wuhan coronavirus. Now on this chart, what happened right before SARS kicked in? It was 9/11. 9/11 kicked in, and SARS came in and pushed the change up. It shoved it right in their face, trying to get people's attention. And then halfway through that rise, the avian bird flu came in 2007 and 8. What happened in 2007 and 8? The financial crash. Okay? So you get a horrific
shock to the country.
Shock to the country right here.
9/11.
9/11, and then you get another one.
2008.
Right, okay. What happened after 2008? Well, people started to get a little more realistic for a while.
But it's all based in these viruses.
Right. And then another virus comes along, the swine flu, and they start resisting change again.
Right.
And it goes up and up and up, and then halfway up, the MERS coronavirus comes in, and then the Ebola, followed by the Ebola. You can see that these people didn't learn over here. They need more warnings over here.
More lessons.
More lessons. The Zika virus keeps going up until we get to where we are right now with the Wuhan coronavirus.
What makes this one so different, right?
What makes this one so different is that we're at a pinnacle now. It looks like it's turning down, okay? But if we don't get it now, if people don't get the awakening that's happening now and embrace it and insist on going back to their old fear-based lives and want everything to be the same as it was.
Go back into complacency.
Right. And compromise. What's going to happen is this chart is going to go way up
Something
here.
else is going to happen to get our attention.
Right. And it gets worse each time.
So,
each time we don't learn, it gets worse.
Right. So let me take it from here. So what this is really demonstrating, and it's right in our faces, there it is, putting the pieces together like Ray described it and showed it, and so you could see it with your own eyes, how this is getting more and more and more intense. This time, imagine, this time it shut down the country.
Wow.
No one has, this is so historical, you guys. This is so massive this time that this is the one time that you won't be able to go back to the old normal. This is going to allow you, each one of you, to experience a new normal that on your own, on our own humanity, we couldn't seem to figure it out until this came along and forced us into something that made us feel very uncomfortable, okay, personally. I want you guys to realize that this is short-sighted. To look at it from a personal standpoint, yeah, we feel it. Ooh, it makes you anxious. What about this? What about that? You know, how are things going to change in my life, in the life of my loved ones? Everything we planned in the way that we did it, you mean that's not going to work out? No, some of it won't work out. Some of it's going to get better. Okay? That's what this really is. So you guys, this webinar is called The Change That You Feared Is Here, But Not to Be Feared. Because this is the change that's been trying to break through. Every single time Ray showed on that chart, it's been trying to break through, and we've been missing it. And we've been missing it. But you know what? This time, they shut the country down.
They shut the world down.
Yeah, how could we not miss it this time? Okay, that's what this really is.
Yeah, before
this
it was just an isolated terrorist attack, and then the country's economy tanked and it got bailed out, and now the whole world's shut down and the economy's tanking,
and
the stock markets are tanking.
Right, Ray.
All around the world.
Right, and nobody knows what it means or what it means to them. Okay, I can only tell you, you guys. I'm going to move through this because this gets even better. All right. I want you guys. Here's what we're going to do now. in my guided journey, I did send you the download for the page in my guided journey for the journal writing, two-sided. If you don't have it, if you missed it in your reminders for this webinar, because you got 3 of them, but if you missed it and you didn't see it in your reminder, the link there to download it, to open and print, just get a piece of paper out and something to write with, all right? And I'm going to walk you through a process that's going to help you with this situation and how to process it. I'm going to show you the intelligent way of dealing with what's going on in your life, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through. All right. So get your piece of paper and your pen or pencil out so I can walk you through this. If you missed this, if you want to just watch it and then play this out later, that's fine too. But you're going to get more if you follow me on this right now. I want you guys to write down, I'm going to have you write down 4 things. I'm going to have you write down what is happening right now in your life that is the most concerning about what's happening and how it affects you or your loved ones. I want you to write down that one thing that stands out the most. And Ray, to give them a sense of what this is, I'm going to read these off. I'm going to give you some ideas around that. Is it catching the virus? It could be. Is it running out of food? I mean, how long is this going to go on? Okay. Is it being alone? Feeling depressed or scared? Could be that too. Or could it be a question around how long is this quarantine going to last? How long is this virus going to carry out? Okay. And if you were to answer that question, and I'm going to give you guys a minute or so to write down what's the most concerning to you right now about this situation that's going on in the world that's become something that you can't go back to your old life. That's what this really means. You will not be able to return to the old normal. This is knocking us all out of it, just like the guides described about the different uses of facilities and the way that kids are going to conduct their lives regarding schooling. It's good. Once you guys think into this, you're not going to want to go back to the old normal. You're not going to want it, all right? You're going to see so many benefits around the new normal, okay? So write down what that is. And Ray, if you were to write down something, give them an idea. What would you write down? What would be the most concerning about this current situation and the changes that say you're going to be required to make? You would write down?
Well, I have to look at it from the standpoint of before I met you, because you and I have done a lot of changes in our life and prepared for all kinds of things.
Yeah, we were put together on purpose from the guides.
We started changing our life and downscaling our life, 10 years ago?
Yeah, we really did, you guys. So the little bit of that's left that for us is so small. The guides have been working us that way and working us that way and we've been acting on it. We've been moving that way. We haven't resisted it, okay?
What's amazing through the whole process is we cut down our lifestyle on all sides this much and thought it was great.
Well, point that out.
Thought it was great, that much.
Yeah.
And then the guides say, oh, no, that's not enough.
And we were like, what?
They said, you need to sell at least another third of everything you own.
We were going, really? So from what Ray's saying is just when you think that you did a good job and you're all done, you're going to find out that it's like an onion, layer after layer. You peel the onion and you get down to that most important part, okay?
All right, so getting back to my point, these are kind of questions that I would have thought about before I met you. I was alone, okay? I'm an extrovert. I like to go out. I like to go out and eat. I like to go out and go to concerts and, things like that and interface with people. I just like to be out and about.
Right, and most of you are used to that.
That's my middle name, out and about. So looking down the list, I don't think I'd be afraid of catching the virus because I've been healthy all my life.
Now that's arrogant.
Well, that is a little arrogant.
That's arrogant.
But
Okay.
I've done things to prepare myself, embrace myself every day of my life since I've been a teenager to fight off infections and colds and flus. And I really haven't been sick. I've had some mechanical issues that need a medical mechanic, but food poisoning a few times and some seasonal allergies depending on where I lived, but I don't get sick.
Okay.
Now, I would have been afraid of running out of food since I was the guy that went out to eat every night, and had my favorite restaurants. And
He wouldn't have been prepared.
but no, I would have had
His lifestyle would have been so interrupted.
yeah, it
Right,
would.
right.
I mean, if I think back in my apartments where I lived by myself, or the only thing I would have had when something like this hit, I'd have bread, peanut butter, and donuts. Breakfast,
Okay,
lunch,
so-
and I went out for dinner.
Okay, so I'm going to move through this because we're going to run out of time in this webinar, Ray. Okay, so I've just got to kind of move through this. You guys have written down whatever that is. Ray gave you some little tidbits, okay, about your lifestyle. It really is about the interruption in your lifestyle.
And
Okay,
everybody's unique.
okay, and survival.
Right.
Okay, because they shut the country down. They shut the world down. Hello? I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be a normal feeling. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, the next thing I want you to do, now that you wrote down what most concerns you, okay, I want you guys to write down how that makes you feel. Now that you wrote it down and you see it on the page, I want you to write down how that makes you feel. I want you to write down why it makes you feel like that. I want you to write down how it makes you feel and why. Okay. This may look simple and simplified, but it's all simple, you guys. It's never been complicated. When you finish writing down what you wrote down that's bothering you, how it makes you feel and why you feel like that, now that you've got that information in front of you, like in my guided journey, okay, in part 3, now that you've got that in front of you, you see it on the page, you wrote it here, okay, and then you wrote down how it feels right here, right here. Now I want you to write down what you realize from what you wrote down and how you realize it made you feel. I want you to write down what you realize, because you will realize something. You might look at it and go, Ray realized that from eating out all the time, just one basic thing, that he would have been...
I was unprepared.
That he was unprepared.
That's
right.
what I realized. It made me feel bad that I didn't have the foresight to even think about something like this.
But how could you know? If you hadn't hadn't been paying attention before, how would you know? But you know now. But you're ready now. And now is the only time, the present moment, that you have control in. Okay, so that's what you work with, and it's perfect timing for that. This time, you're going to get it. And then once you write down what you realized, the last and final question is, what action do you intend to take? Now that you have the information in front of you and it's not here, scattered and out of context and in an emotional turmoil. No, it's finally on the pages where you can examine it.
That's the key. And this is the exact layout of that printout that you sent them.
It is. This is exactly what I sent you. So if you didn't see it and you missed it, just go back to your emails, your reminder emails that you got for this webinar. You're going to see it, the download PDF. It's a great big long URL. Click on it and it'll take you to the page and print it out. And start using this on a day-to-day basis so you can begin to see what's going on with you And you will see the part of you that needs a course correction or 2 or 3 or many, and you will see the parts of you that are really getting this, that's ready, so ready to get this, all right? This is really the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, and
doing this every day for 15 minutes. Writing in your journal every day for 15 minutes and walking through those 4 questions. Those 4 questions will become alive inside you, where when something happens and you're moving through your life, boom, 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 you're going to know. You're going to just go right through it, and you're going to have the answer, and you're going to have the answer, okay?
You know how else I apply those questions? In day-to-day conversations when I meet somebody. Somebody says something to you, well, how did that make me feel? Okay? It made me feel a little confused about what they're trying to do. And then what did I realize? Well, I realized they're trying to manipulate me.
That would be so right. See how quick you can move through it? This is why you want to train yourself on working through these 4 qualifying questions in everything you do going forward. It's going to clear it all up. You will no longer be scared.
Right.
Of the fear. See, the change that you feared is here, but not to be feared. This is what I mean. This is what Ray's talking about.
And you won't allow yourself to be manipulated anymore.
You will catch it. And you know what you'll do? You won't attack that person.
No.
You'll just sit back and go, okay, I got this. And you'll move on by. You won't spend time with that. Okay, but you're going to see a lot of situations and people that you move by, because most people are still reacting and living in fear. And when you feel that energy, you can't help them by going there with them.
Because they're afraid too.
Oh, they're way more afraid than you are. Okay, so
right.
You're going to learn to identify this and not be pulled into it, okay?
It becomes second nature when somebody talks to you to run that through those filters, those
right.
questions.
Those 4 questions.
How did what they just say make me feel? What do I realize from it? And now what am I going to do about it?
Right. And it could be something just as gentle and subtle that they won't even notice, where you just keep going.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
They wonder why they never saw you at any more parties. You
guys have control over the situation if you remain present.
That's right.
And when you walk through those 4 qualifying questions, you are present. You're not trying to run from a past or you anticipate a future. You are right there in the present moment, acknowledging it and walking through it consciously. Okay.
Right.
All right. Now, let me get through this here. Okay. Okay. So the purpose in writing all this down is to remember who you are. Until you know who you are, you won't be able to trust yourself. This is what this is going to solve. You must trust yourself in order to make good decisions. That's how this works. Okay.
Remember what the guide said, truth and love.
Truth and love are the same thing. You guys are going to really learn what that is, all right? These are not just words. Okay. So I explained these journals. This is a guided journal writing system. I'm just going to run through this real quick. People that find me by finding guided first. They either listen to it or they read it. And then they find my journal. This is the companion journal. The companion journal to Guided. This came about because of all of the followers of Guided, the readers of Guided, coming to me wanting to know how to do this. Okay.
And people might say, well, I have a journal. I write down, when I feel like it. But this is a lot more in the journal. The third part of this book here is the writing part, the journal writing part.
And we actually have a separate book just for the writing part.
When you run out of pages here.
Right.
But right in the center of this book, well, tell them what
it's part 2. And part 2 is the part where, part 3 is the part I emailed to you guys to follow me today. It's the guided, it's the journal writing system. Okay, it's the journal writing part of this system. But what Ray is talking about is part 2, which is my guided journey. And that's where you go back to your early life 18 chapters in part 2 to heal what causes you to make these bad decisions now. And you don't know where they're coming from. You keep picking the wrong people in your life, but you don't know why you keep doing it. Okay, it's not your fault. But this is why this exists. Ray and I did a video on each chapter that this book guides you to, where you can watch the video and get in the right mindset before you start taking your journey back. This is very different than anything you've ever experienced, all right? I was guided to do this. Of course I was, all right? So that's what this is about. Now, it's called the Guided Journal Writing System when you bring these 3 books together, all right? Now, I'm going to move on to the takeaway. The takeaway from Guided and how it coincides with the world we find ourselves in now is that we can all do better, much better. And we know that. When you sit in your silence, we all know that individually, that we can definitely do better than we have. And we're going to. How being guided led me to the right one at the right time. Ray. I didn't pick Ray. They picked Ray. Okay, the story is in part 4 of Guided.
You asked for help.
I did ask for help. That's how it came about. You're going to learn how to do that when you read or listen to this book. You're going to learn how to do that when you start writing in your journal. This is what this teaches you to do. Okay, but you've got to trust yourself to be able to do that, right? Okay, let me keep going here. How together with the help of our spirit guides, we collectively bring this project to life, to you. Our guides told us from the beginning to build this project online. And look where we are in the world now.
That was before this technology even existed.
Guided was published in 2014. They told us to do this online from the beginning. They told us that we would help the ones who could be reached. Can you be reached? Are you ready? The change that you feared is here, but not to be feared. I'm going to read an excerpt. Now, I read you an excerpt from the first part of Guided, from the first chapter. Now, I'm going to go, it's a pretty big book. I'm going to go to the afterword of Guided at the very end, okay? And I'm going to read a short excerpt from the afterword, the finish of the book. The biggest disappointment in my life is the rapid decline of society. Too many people have subscribed to selfish, ruthless bully tactics. Money has become their god, the answer to everything. These people have become increasingly more isolated, distrustful, and paranoid. They are the problem. They distrust people they don't even know, which makes no rational sense. This is not making the world a better place, and that's why it is falling apart. It needs to, finally. I believe that this is what the merry-go-round dream was showing me, with people letting go and giving up. This has not happened yet, but it's not far off. Now, Guided was published in 2014. This book prophesies what's going on in our world right now and going forward. That's what Guided does. None of this is meant to happen to you. It's meant to happen for you. Because because the world we find ourselves in now is not sustainable for anyone anymore. It's obvious that it's not. This is a mess that needs rebalancing, a shift, a big one. We find ourselves in a world of lies and manipulations that require everyone to look for answers in unconventional ways. To me, this has never been unconventional. Truth, and this is the last paragraph of this book, truth and love are both painstakingly real. You must be 100% present to fully experience them. There can be no distractions, no manipulations or strategies to outsmart them, no pretending or cheating. You must be fearless. You must be you, pure and simple. Not too many people are willing to do this because to them, it feels too risky. Imagine that. Imagine finally getting that rock off your back where you can be who you are. Only if you have a relationship with those who walk with you, your guides, your life coaches, as they navigate you through this life, will you have the checks and balances necessary to keep you on course. But you have to be open to this relationship and willing to act on their guidance and on time. No one here knows you better than your guides, nor does anyone here in this life know what to do, especially now. Nobody knows. This is going to be great, okay? This is what this is. You've spent your entire life to get to this point where it's finally your turn. You take the power back, okay? And I'm going to finish this. Here we are just 5 years after Guided was published. Do you know what to do? Do you even know someone who knows what to do? Your guides see what you cannot and help you remember what you forgot, especially yourself. Fear can only happen when you forget who you are. You don't awaken when you are in your comfort zone. This one global event, the coronavirus, is accelerating the awakening. It's a change that has great momentum, making it easier for the real you to emerge. Put fear aside, allow yourself to be present. That's when you will see your part in this awakening and what it holds for you. When you feel emotions take over, stop. Write it in your journal, part 3. Record where you got hung up, where you flubbed up. Okay, write it all in there because that's how you're going to fix this, heal this. Breathe yourself back into existence. Refuse to let that have a handle on you. This is when you will be reminded who you are. Every decision you make going forward will depend on how well you know yourself. This is how you're going to learn to do that. Like the merry-go-round dream prophesies, the speed of change that you are now experiencing is not to be feared. This is when you will begin to see your part in this historical global event and not the fear. The choices you make from this accelerated awakening will determine the rest of your life. The choice is yours, fear or the awakening. Once you willingly step into this change, the awakening, you will begin to see how repressed your life used to be. Next comes gratitude. Having the courage to trust yourself, to let go of the past, is what will make your life so special now. It's gratitude for everything you have become from this massive awakening that will carry you forward to your life of purpose. And I'm going to close it with this before the guides close the session. Out of chapter 8 of Guided, when I was 16 years old and I finally got out of that abusive childhood, getting out of an abusive, repressive life is a real accomplishment. That's just, you are on the verge of experiencing this yourself. You don't know it yet, but that's what you're going to find out. Once you do, you need to revisit your life to put the pieces back together again. That's part 2 of my guided journey, where you take the journey back. That may be the hardest thing you will ever have to do. It was for me. I appreciate everything my guides did to get me this far. It's gratitude that makes my life so special now.
Yep.
And that's what you're going to find. You're going to find enormous gratitude, most of all, for getting out of that repressive life. You don't know you've been repressed, but you have.
You thought it was the good old days.
You're going to look back at it and you're just going to go, I am so glad that happened, that not to be out of that, because that's really what this is all about. All right. Okay. I'll tell you, when you have this connection to your guides, your heart is open. You can't pretend. You see the love and truth are painstakingly real. That's what this is right here. Okay. Okay. So let's see where we are here. The closing message from the guides. Oh boy. Okay. And here they go.
Before we leave you, we have some questions. What is your plan for when you wake up tomorrow? What is your plan for the great awakening that's coming? When this current situation is over, will you adapt to a new normal, or will you fall back into a fear-based life and eventually fall off the merry-go-round? We said in the opening that we come to you in truth and love, and that they are the same. You came into this life with only truth and love. You were the most powerful as you first got here. You were taught all the fear that you have ever felt and still feel. Wake up and start listening to your intuition to help you believe. We want you to watch for a sign of this great awakening that will happen a few days before Easter. Know that fear is the opposite of awakening and will keep you asleep. Breathe the life force into your body each day while releasing all stress and fear that has accumulated. Once you start understanding the connection between truth and love, you will discover that you can always love someone you trust, but you can't always trust someone you think you love. This law applies to you too. Once you live in and look for truth and love in everything around you, you will love yourself more, and you will trust yourself to make the right, fear-free decisions. Besides breathing exercises each day, we want you to drink only pure water, and a lot of it. Next, once you reach this calm state with breathing, water, and quietness, we want you to focus with intent. Finally, go forward calmly.